the beautiful thing about short-term rentals is that it accomplishes what I like to call the freedom triad. So it can give you time freedom, because you can set up the business in a way that, if you have the right systems and team in place, it's not going to take a tremendous amount of your time. The second thing is it gives you location freedom, because you can do this business literally anywhere in the world as long as you have a laptop and an internet connection. And the third thing is financial freedom, because if you actually build it and continually to keep going down the path of adding more units and scaling, I mean, if you're ever unsatisfied with the amount of money you're making in this business, you only have to ever go and look in the mirror and decide how many more properties you want to go and get in order to give yourself a pay raise.
Today's episode is going to be focusing on them and their journey over the last 3 years and how they've made almost $3 million doing Airbnb. So let's dive in. Welcome, guys.
Thanks so much for having us again, Michael.
Yeah, we really appreciate it. And yes, 3 million within 3 years. That's kind of an insane journey, going from scratch to where we are now, just about to cross over that threshold. And it's been a wild ride, but it's been pretty incredible as well.
So give me a brief background, and we're going to go ahead and drop the links below with your entire playlist. Obviously, you guys have been on the channel for a couple of years at this point. You would not be invited back had we not gotten such tremendous results from the folks that have come on board with you. So we're super proud of y'all and happy for your financial journey.
Yeah, so we started our journey, we talked about in a previous video, with a very small 1 bed, 1 bath. And I mean, fast forward to today, we've scaled that into 35 doors. And at this point, our business is doing about $250,000 a month in turnover at the moment.
Yeah. And I think that's a big thing when we kind of looked at this. This is super scalable, of where, we've been able to grow and scale it. We can manage it from anywhere in the world. We're in different countries now, of where we actually manage different short-term rentals, and we're in different markets. And, you do not physically need to be there in person to manage this. And that's a very powerful type business. You're able to grow and scale it without actually having to physically set it up or manage it.
But I mean, getting back to the topic at hand of, how did we become millionaires doing this? So the biggest thing is, getting into, so we really gave this a lot of thought, and we boiled it down to, and just reflecting on our journey, 6 steps of what really were the major game changers for us. Because, as I said, we had very small beginnings when we got into this. And at that time, we weren't in the very best position financially, because a previous business we had quite a colossal failure, because we actually ended up getting hit with a fairly substantial back tax bill from the government. And that basically cratered the company and left us in quite a great deal of debt. So, I mean, reflecting on where we were and then, where we are now, it's been quite a change.
It's been quite a change. And I think a big thing for us, I know we've talked about, how we've grown and scaled over the last 2.5, 3 years to make almost 3 million. A big thing for us is quality over quantity. There's some short-term rental management companies out there, other people that have, hundreds of units, but have similar revenue numbers to us. And it's like, well, what's the difference? It's like, because you want to get the best bang for your buck out of the smallest amount of units. And that's kind of a secret in it all as well. Like, a secret sauce is, making sure you're getting the most amount of money from the units that you have, and not just getting a volume game around that.
So let's get in. So, I mean, like we said, we did boil it down to like 6 steps. So you ready, Michael, if we touch on that? Or?
Listen, guys, I love the whiteboard. So let's go ahead. Yes. Yeah.
Awesome. Okay. So step number 1, and I would say this stems more from a mindset standpoint, is if you really want to become a millionaire and you want to do it with short-term rentals, step 1 is you have to make the decision to do it, right? And it all starts from that, because again, from when we were coming into this, totally green behind the ears, not knowing what the hell we were doing, to have visions and aspirations of, creating wealth from this type of opportunity, the first step was we just merely decided this is what we're going to do. And it doesn't matter the current set of circumstances that we have, because set of circumstances that we started with were seriously not ideal in trying to start a business from scratch and then ultimately scale that into a multi 7-figure opportunity at this point.
Let me hit pause on you there real quick, Michael. What circumstances were adverse? So everyone is going to run into challenges. Out of the gate, what did you face?
Well, as I mentioned, so like one of our previous opportunities that we were involved with, because we were fairly young at the time, we didn't understand all the intricacies of how to handle our taxes with business. We ended up getting levied from the government a back tax bill of around $50,000, and just based on that business type, we didn't have the cash. And,
it completely cratered it, and we had to liquidate everything and then essentially shut it down because of that.
So you had a challenge, right?
Yeah. So the first challenge was revenue, or like cash flow, right? Number one, to, a lot of people are like, oh, I want to start a business, but I don't have a lot of money. The thing that was very unique about this situation is we started this business with very little money, like to get into short-term rentals and to get into, so we talked about our journey before that we started with rental arbitrage. Essentially, you're leasing another person's property and controlling it to then, make money from short-term rentals. And the arbitrage is what you can sell above and beyond the lease agreement, right? So if lease is $1,000 and you make $3,000 per month, you're netting that $2,000 cash flow. So,
and we're definitely going to dive into the arbitrage versus partnership here later on the episode. How much money did you start with?
Yeah, so I mean, our very first unit that we got up and going it cost us, I think, around $4,300, and ultimately ended up actually being a little bit less than that because we controlled that unit for about 2 years, and we actually got our damage deposit back in full because we took such good care of the property. So out of pocket on a net basis was around $3,300. So
actually, it was even less than that because the homeowner actually decided to purchase all the furnishings from us back after. So really, we got into that deal technically with no money.
Yeah.
Looking back at it, right? Because we got both of our damage deposit and they paid for furnishings back to us.
So over a 12-month span of time, so you were all in $3,300 over 12 months. What was your ROI?
So on that one particular deal, so we controlled it for about 2 years. We pulled out over $15,000 in profit. So on a return basis, it was around 368% on that. And that was just one deal.
That was our first deal.
That was our first deal that we had ever done. So
to get into this, like, you don't need a lot of money. You just have to get into the right deal where the numbers make sense.
And you guys didn't even know what you were doing.
No.
So just shy of a 400% return on investment. Guys, we always talk about ROI, cash flow, all those things here on the channel. These guys are living proof that, I mean, you didn't know anything, right? But you were determined to make something happen, right?
Yeah.
Almost a 400 ROI first deal.
Correct.
That's correct. Yeah.
Yeah. So that was first one. So first step was making a decision to do this. We're committed to it. We want to make sure at least it had that year commitment, right? Because we signed a 1-year lease agreement and we're like, hey, well, we're committed to do this. Let's see how it goes. And so we just dove right in. So that's the big thing, is making that decision to do this and being committed to it. So that was the first step. The
biggest thing with that, though, is so getting into step 2. I mean, obviously, on a numbers basis, that first opportunity sounded, it obviously sounds quite good, right? But even looking at that math, obviously, you're not going to generate any meaningful wealth with just having one deal. So that's when we started to add and really start building out the portfolio. So one of the next things we did is we said, okay, well, if we want to become financially independent doing this, leading into step number 2, you have to do what we call the millionaire math. You got to do the math, right? Because ultimately, if a lot of people, what ends up happening is they have a goal. So they say, I want to make X number of dollars in X number of time. But
or they literally just say, I want to be a millionaire. They'll just throw that out there. And it's like, well, what does that actually mean? So this is a big thing. And this is also, we coach and train anyone that's coming into this is right from the get-go. You have to have that mindset, understanding of what's going to motivate you. And a big thing, it essentially comes down to ratios. when we're looking at it. It's like, starting to actually do the millionaire math is what ratio is it really going to take for you to hit your goal? So for instance, a lot of our students coming in, they want to, do what we've done, like, going full time into their own business, leave their W-2s, create their own financial freedom. And they say all those kind of, I guess, buzzwords, but it's like, well, what is it actually going to take to do that? So that's when we start looking at the numbers and we start looking at ratios.
Yeah. And the biggest thing is, like, if you don't actually take the time to break it down and create a plan to get there, it's kind of just like, it's just like marbles rattling around in your head. You have all these ideas, but then you have no track to run on in order to actually make that a reality. So, with our training, the BNB Bootcamp, that's actually one of the very first exercises we have people do. And we paint very realistic expectations of what it's actually going to take in order for someone to literally start this from scratch and have the potential to build it into, very realistically, a 6-figure business, and, with time, a 7-figure business, if they just stay committed to the process and, keep just repeating it. Exactly.
Yeah, no, love that, guys. So if you're already interested, you're watching these videos right now, go ahead and go to BNB Bootcamp. We're going to go ahead and drop that email link below at VIPfinancialeducation.com. Michael, Katrina, someone from their team will be contacting you shortly. Guys, this is the real deal. They would not be on the channel consistently for 2 years at this point if they were not. We've got testimonial after testimonial. Michael, I'm going to go ahead and open it back up to you. I feel like we're about to open up number 3 here.
Door number 3.
So the third thing is, okay, so you made the decision to do it. You've done the math. The next thing we like to say is you need to seek mentors in order to collapse time, right? So what we're really saying there is, and you've said this a number of times on previous videos, Michael, is you don't need to reinvent the wheel, because ultimately there's a lot of, I always like to say there's a million ways to make $1 million, right? But it's really what way resonates with you and enables you to leverage your skill sets and abilities that you have in order to get there as quickly as possible. The biggest thing is when you're coming into a new opportunity, there is always a learning curve, no matter what business you're looking to get into. But there's always going to be people that have gone before you, have accomplished exactly what you want to do. So it just makes sense to just simply write a check to pay them, to have them show you exactly what they did so that you can collapse that amount of time in order to get to the exact same result. Yeah,
it really just comes down to who do you listen to? Right? Like, who are you listening to for your advice, to grow and, change your life and that's what it comes down to mentors. Anytime we've had a coach, a mentor is like exponentially, increased our income. It shifted our mindsets. That was probably one of the biggest game changers for us, is just having those mentors and coaches, even just for mental mind coaches, and also just helping you with that path. That was probably the biggest change that we've had in our business, is hiring coaches just to help.
Yeah. And like one of our coaches right now, it still makes me a little bit sick to even say it, but I'm very happy that we made the decision. We pay him more than $100,000 a year for coaching, which on its face sounds absurd, right? But I can tell you, from the very first call that we had with this coach, he paid for his entire fee within the first call.
Yeah. So
that's how powerful mentorship. And since we've been working with him, our numbers in our business have basically doubled, and we're not even halfway through in working with him yet.
Yeah. So that's why our third step is seek mentors, and it'll collapse the time and increase your income.
No, love that, guys. We all obviously often preach on the channel about getting coaches, getting folks that are in your circle that have more knowledge than you do. I'm smart enough to know that people know more than I do. So if I'm going to go down a specific avenue in a business that I'm not familiar with, I want guidance. These two are folks that, if you're trying to get into short-term rentals, Airbnb, these would be the folks. If you don't mind talking about what your program entails, what does the coaching look like? What's a day-to-day in the life?
Yeah.
For sure.
So, I mean, for our coaching, the BNB Bootcamp, we've been coaching students for over 2 years now. So really anyone kind of coming in, we want them to have the mindset of a long-term vision. So we actually work very intimately over 4 months with anyone coming in. So we have our BNB Bootcamp Elite Masterclass. So we only take on 10 students per month when we're looking at that. So and the reason we have 10, people are like, oh, is that an arbitrary number? It's like, no, it's a very focused number because, we can't have hundreds or thousands of people in one big coaching call and trying to help each one get through their journey. For us, it's a very intimate group. We want to make sure that you have the direct support from us as you're coming along the journey, because everyone has different situations and we want to be able to really connect with them and be able to help them along the journey for the 4 months.
Yeah. And I mean, the majority of people that do come to work with us are starting their businesses from total scratch. So everything that we talk about and discuss from the very beginning stages, it's, setting that vision, figuring out your why, building a plan, to getting your business on the right foundation and infrastructure, getting your corporate entity, things like that set up. And then everything from going out to how to find properties, how to engage with landlords, how to get a listing online, how to price, how to optimize, how to build systems, team, have the right automation tools. So we're actually creating a business. We're not creating a job for people. Like, the beautiful thing about short-term rentals is that it accomplishes what I like to call the freedom triad. So it can give you time freedom, because you can set up the business in a way that, if you have the right systems and team in place, it's not going to take a tremendous amount of your time. The second thing is it gives you location freedom, because you can do this business literally anywhere in the world as long as you have a laptop and an internet connection. And the third thing is financial freedom, because if you actually build it and continually to keep going down the path of adding more units and scaling, I mean, if you're ever unsatisfied with the amount of money you're making in this business, you only have to ever go and look in the mirror and decide how many more properties you want to go and get in order to give yourself a pay raise.
Remember, do the millionaire math. Number 2, go back and do the millionaire math.
You can always give yourself a raise, right? Just takes
Exactly.
a little bit more effort. Yeah.
But you can control essentially your income, right? From there. It's like, okay, well, I'm ready for some more income. What do I have to do? Get more properties.
Well, that dovetails very nicely into point number 4, which is, again, keeping on the theme of becoming financially independent.
And I'm dying to see number 4. So
in order to get there, if you want to become a millionaire in short-term rentals, you have to radically increase your income. Like, if you
how
just,
do you do that?
The average person if we're just taking the United States as an example, I think the median income is something like $50,000 to $60,000 a year, right? So by the time you strip off, rent, mortgage, utilities, insurance, transportation, kids, there's just not enough money to save, right?
Yeah.
And in order to create wealth, you have to save your excess income, right? But in order to have savings to begin with, you have to radically increase the amount of monthly cash flow that's coming into your household and your business, right?
Yeah. So, I mean, of all that, we've mentioned this before, like, we've been entrepreneurs doing quite a bit of different side hustles. Of the side hustles we've done, this is the most incredible cash flow vehicle that we've seen to date. Just being able to, number one, control your income is very tangible, because you're the one setting up the property, having the design, you're, welcoming short-term rental guests in there. So you're controlling all those factors, right? But you're controlling your pricing. You're controlling, what you're charging, like all those things in there, like it's very tangible. And it's the most kind of no-brainer cash flow vehicle that we've come across. So essentially the scalability of this is incredible, the amount of cash flow. So typically when we have a student coming in, I mean, we're looking at we want to be having a goal minimum around $1,000 net. So our first property, we talked about this, we made $600 net. That was our first property. From there, we've shifted and changed our approach to really now look for what kind of income properties we're going to go after, why we're going to go after them, and how to get into those deals with those landlords and what kind of deals we're going to get into. So that's why when we're radically increasing our income for step 4, those are the type of decisions that we're looking at, and how are we going to do it for the best bang your buck. I talked about it earlier in this call, but it's quality over quantity. Would you rather have, 10 units that are making thousands of dollars net per month, or hundreds of units that's barely making, $400 or $500? Do the millionaire math, do, the best bang for your buck, quality over quantity. And that's really our focus.
Yeah, no, totally get that. I'm a math guy myself. It seems like both of y'all are as well. So at the end of the day, basically it's a bottom line number for me. It's how much time am I spending? What is my return? And I make decisions based on that. It's not emotional ever. And I don't think that's where it's at with you guys as well. Obviously, I've got a business where I help homeowners. However, bottom line is, that profit margin obviously is what we all want to take a look at. You guys are looking at it the right way. So, geez, number 5, I'm stoked.
Let's get into it. So number 5 is, if you want to become a millionaire with short-term rentals, you want to save to invest, not just save to save. Okay. So what we're talking about here specifically is the biggest mistake most people make in pretty much any business opportunity. I have so many different examples that we can point to of people that do this. As soon as they radically increase their income, so they're doing really good. They've made the decision. They've done the math. They've got a mentor. Their income has gone up. What they then end up doing is they go and start consuming their income. So
it's called a lifestyle creep. If you've ever seen that, right?
It's Parkinson's law. It's like, as your income rises, so do your expenses to meet or exceed that income. So it's kind of like a starving man going to a buffet. Like they can't control themselves, right? So, as soon as their income goes up, they then go get a nicer car. They go live in a nicer house. They go take lavish vacations, way too frequently. They go out to dinner way too frequently. They buy stuff for people that they don't even necessarily like, just to impress them, which they're not even thinking about them anyways. Who cares, right? Like they're consuming this wealth rather than saving it in order to make investments into other opportunities that can either grow the business or can grow their investment portfolio. So in the case of Katrina and I, we didn't pay ourselves anything out of our company when we first started, because everything we were making was just rolled back into the business so that we can continually scale it up while we were still working full time.
Yeah, it's a really good, just kind of looking hindsight of when we were growing and scaling our business. I mean, this same whiteboard is our goal board typically. So like we usually have our goals written down there for quarterly goals, halfway and yearly goals.
Hopefully we didn't eliminate all of them just because you had to clean.
I took a picture.
We took a picture. We're good. We'll put it back on. But this is something we look at every day, right? And that was a big thing for us. We wake up, we see these goals. We're like, all right, are we on track? Are we going in the direction we want to go into? And a big thing for us is we wanted, to grow and scale to get investments, right? And to really essentially get out of the rat race. We did the math of what it's going to take for cash flow. But in order to get that cash flow, we just needed to reinvest into our business until we got to those numbers.
Yeah. So what a lot of people say is, well, if I had more money, then I would have a better plan. And, I would suggest that if you did the opposite, then you would actually get the results you're looking for, which is if you had a better plan, you would have more money. So actually, in one of the modules we teach inside of BNB Bootcamp is a cash flow management system that we installed into our company, which I will say is largely responsible for the speed of which Katrina and I were able to get ourselves to the stage where we were able to not only replace our incomes, but be able to take a really nice income out of our business, but still have enough excess cash flow to then either reinvest back into the business or potentially get into different opportunities that can, also contribute to building your wealth on a long-term basis.
Yeah.
Yeah. So guys, what I'm hearing out here right now is that not only are you guys offering a blueprint for specifically short-term rentals, but also you guys are giving accountability measures out there to folks. So you're not just talking about real estate with them, you're talking about life goals.
Oh, yes.
Well, because
that accountability component is so rare. If you could speak on that, what does a weekly call look like?
Yeah, so one of the components in our BNB Bootcamp training is not only do people have access to a members portal where they'll get access to all the how-tos on how to actually build a short-term rental business, but the reason why people that come into our program have so much success is because of those weekly Q&A accountability calls. Because again, we call it a boot camp for a reason. Like there's work, and we expect people to work when they come in to get into this business and to get their business of their own up and running. But the biggest thing is when they come in and they get the weekly assignments that we'll provide, when we hop on that call, we hold that person accountable. We said, great. Okay, so everyone, this was the assignment we had for last week. How are we doing? Give us a report. Where are we at? Because, as we can be friendly, of course, but as coaches, there's a difference between being a coach and being a friend, right? Yeah. A friend will tell you what you want to hear, but a coach will tell you what you need to hear, right? And sometimes it's not always nice to hear it, but we do it for the person's benefit, not their detriment.
Y'all have been doing this for just shy of 3 years.
Yep.
Correct. Yep.
Mind sharing some financial information with me? Has your life changed? What's it look like now versus 3 years ago?
Well, it's funny, we have this discussion all the time, and we're looking at this, and from the outside, friends and family looking at us,
Michael still has a beard, so that
he still has a beard. He still has some hair. That's good. But I mean, the main thing is like, not a lot has quote unquote changed. I mean, we still live in the same house that, we were 3 years ago. And the big thing is like, we still drive the same car. Like we literally have this small little blue Honda Fit. And a lot of people, like, we're not, driving Ferraris, having bottles and models down the street or anything like that. But what we do have is we've started, some of our strategies of shifting. We started investing, right? Like our personal goals. For us, it was really important to have lifestyle assets. So part of the whole journey, of our plan of when we started, remember, have the plan and then go and then make sure everything kind of follows suit, was to have these lifestyle assets. So what I mean specifically by that is, we, for instance, wanted a place in Canmore, Alberta. So it's a beautiful place in Alberta here. It's in the mountains. We wanted to own a property there, and to get into, like, typically people that own properties in here are millionaires, definitely, but they're hard to get in for multiple reasons. And we always had that goal. We love to ski, we love to hike, we love to be there. And it was on our goal board for years. And it wasn't really until we had the cash flow vehicle, short-term rentals, to purchase this. And really, instead of, having a Ferrari, we have a Canmore condo. Yeah.
And I mean, in that journey, we actually just closed on our second property in Canmore just last week, which is really cool. So as Katrina mentioned earlier, we're big on this idea of, or go ahead, Michael.
Just for the cool.
What's that?
Did you say just for the cool?
Just for the cool. Just for fun. We got a second Canmore condo.
Just for the cool.
Just for the cool.
Just for fun.
Love it.
Yeah. Oh, that's fun.
I'm gonna pick up another condo up there just for the cool. Yeah.
Just for the cool. No big deal.
It's probably very Canadian.
No big deal. Yeah, Canadian expressions.
Yeah. So we actually just closed on our second deal there because one of the things we noticed, depending on where you do this business, you can earn substantially higher returns depending on which market you're actually in. So our whole thing is based on quality, not quantity at this point, because
we've touched on that a few times, and we're going to keep harping on it because that's what's so important. I think makes us different than a lot of other short-term rental mentors out there. A lot of coaches, they're like, oh, if it's cash flow. And I'm like, well, try to think of where you want to focus your time on that makes the best bang for your buck. Because we're at $250,000 a month now from 35 units. Like, that's incredible to look at that kind of math with it, right? And the reason is because the type of units that we have and the cash flow coming from the units, that's what's important. So whatever, in that market, the cash flow that comes off of that, it makes the most sense to do it.
Yeah, and that unit in particular, and the reason why we ended up picking up a second one is in July. I don't have the numbers yet for August because we're obviously still in the calendar month. That unit alone produced over $13,000 in revenue, and on a net basis was $8,300. So if you annualize that, that's $100,000 a year from one property.
That's a six-figure business right there from one property. So
one deal.
Yeah. So that's where we're going, and that's why we say save to invest, don't save to save. So we're investing in those Canmore properties. So we'll get to the last one here. So I know everyone's wondering what number 6 is.
So the final thing is learn the process, repeat till rich. Because people ask us all the time, holy shit, guys, like you have 35 properties. Like, how did you do that? Right? You know, the question always, how did you do that? And we always just give the same answer. We say, well, we learned how to do it once, and then we did the same thing 35 times.
Yeah.
Yes. Right.
And
So
I mean,
what we're really saying is like, you need to have stamina as an entrepreneur, because what we do is, again, it's simple. It's not easy. Like there's a tremendous amount of work that goes into not only just getting a business off the ground, but
having the systems, having the team, making sure it's all like really a well-oiled machine essentially, and having those foundations. But once you have those dialed in, the sky's the limit.
yeah, like I remember very vividly, you know, I think the very first time we made $10,000 in a month, like my mind was just like, oh my God, like I can't.
Yeah.
But it was hard. It was really hard to even get to that number. But, you know,
it was proof to us that this could make the money, make the cash flow, and be, you know, a 6-figure business, now a 7-figure business, making 3 million in 3 years.
Yeah.
I think that's important to kind of note on here. So, you know, it's a not a simple recipe, but it is kind of that copy and paste approach. So if you can put the time in, you're coachable, you're trainable, you do one deal, and that's proof of concept. You guys have simply replicated that 35 times.
Not only us, but our students.
Mm-hmm.
That's the big thing. And it's always like, our biggest thing for the journey is getting someone to get to that first unit, because they can prove it to themselves that they can do this, then they take off, and it's incredible.
We call that hush up money in my world. So you put that first check in, and it's, well, hush up is a very light term for what we typically call that, but yeah, hush up money and then move forward from there. So
yeah.
Sorry to interrupt, Michael. Go ahead, sir.
So, I mean, that's basically it. Like that's been our progression and journey of how we took this from literally nothing to, you know, being in a stage now where I guess we've joined, you know,
the multi-million-dollar club, right?
Millionaire status, and doing this in just under 3 years. Right.
Mm-hmm.
So, and the whole thing is, we're not sharing this to brag, gloat, or pound our chest and say, hey, look at us and how great we are. I mean, again, we did not start with very enviable circumstances coming into this business. Like we were behind the 8 ball, not ahead of the 8 ball, right?
Yeah.
So,
and it just, this was our mental strategies that, you know, we followed as we went through, and some really, really big shifts for us to be able to become that millionaire status. And like I said, we drive a blue Honda Fit, guys. Like this is how we're able to become millionaires in it too. Like, where's your money going? Who are you listening to? How do you want to grow and scale it?
Yeah, no, we love that, guys. And obviously we've seen you guys grow throughout the channel here over the last handful of years. So personal question, W-2s would combined, what were y'all making?
Yeah, I think, so I was making 85,000 a year.
yeah.
And pension every other Friday off. You know, that was capping out at 95,000 a year for me if I just had my yearly kind of grow and scale, I guess, or growing salary with that. You know, it's this government raise to get every year a salary raise.
Yeah. And in currency trading, I had a base salary of around 60, and I was in it for a couple of years, and I was on track to get to a 6-figure income. But, and I mean, like full disclosure, there's people making enormous amounts of money in that business. But again, the amount of hours that they were working to produce that income is very different from the hours that we work now in order to produce, you know, 7 figures plus per year. Right. So, I mean, at this stage, we take, you know, very nice salaries of our own company that exceeded, you know, what we were making in our previous, you know, employment. And we just have more control over not only our financial matters, but our time. You know, if we want to take some time off and go somewhere, we just go.
We just go, right?
You know, there's no permission slip that we need to, you know, obtain in order to go ahead and do that. So
yeah, so kind of top end, you guys were probably capped at maybe $250,000. You are literally millionaires now. That's a weird word, right?
In under 3 years. Yeah, that was a big shift for us. And I mean, there's a lot of scary moments along the journey. Like going full time is a scary thing, you know, like Michael's already full time, not by choice, right? It was,
well, he had to get fired before y'all got this thing going.
I made the choice for him. Yeah.
That's true.
Yeah. Like my parents were government workers and, you know, working for the government of Canada, working as a teacher and, you know, just full on government workers. For me to leave a government job, you know, it was
their minds melted.
Oh, it was scary, right? But just having that, and I said, you know what, I'm going to create my own pension.
Yeah,
Do that.
Love it. I cannot be more excited, Matthew, as well, for the successes that you guys are having right now. To go from that to millionaire status. Millionaire is a weird word, you know, and y'all are so humble about it. Which is impressive to me, because when people go from, not that you're at nothing, but to go from that to the status you guys are at right now, it's pretty impressive. Anyways, guys, we love bringing Michael and Katrina here on the channel. They are true success stories on how you can go from literally zero real estate experience to becoming a multi-millionaire in less than 3 years. If you want to hear more information about this, go ahead and drop a thumbs up below. We're going to drop the link below for you to contact them directly. It's going to be BNB Bootcamp at VIPfinancialeducation.com. If you want to get in their shoes here in the next couple of years, we would recommend at least having a consultation call with them. They don't bite. They're going to shoot you straight. If it's a good fit for you, good fit for them, then maybe y'all will move forward. Either way, if you're a subscriber, thanks for joining us. If you're not, go ahead and subscribe below and ding that bell as always. If you want additional notifications from the VIP Financial Education YouTube channel, where we help you go further, faster financially, talking all things credit, capital, and cash flow. Michael and Katrina, thank you so much for your time. We love y'all and best of luck, and hope to have you back on in additional episodes if y'all are agreeable.
Yeah, honestly, Michael, anytime, reach out to us. It's always a pleasure being on here, talking to you, talking to Matt, talking to your audience. The VIP financial people have been amazing. A lot of our students have come from there and they're just killing it. They're incredible. So we super appreciate, you know, coming on the channel and taking time out to speak with us.
Thank you so much. And like we mentioned, you know, we are currently still accepting students for our next round of mentorship. So
please reach out.
We have 3 spots still available for our September series. So if that's something you want, if this is something you want to do, and this is something you want to learn how to do in creating a business in short-term rentals, send us an email at the BNB Bootcamp at VIPfinancialeducation.com. So BNB Bootcamp at VIPfinancialeducation.com, and we'd love to speak with you.
Thanks, guys.
Until next time, thanks for joining us, and make it a great day, y'all.
Bye, guys.
Thanks so much.